raised Lazarus from the dead. And I thought that would be an apropos message for Easter. So I'm going to prepare us for the Easter message by giving the context of this incredible event when Jesus raises his dear friend Lazarus from death. Okay, and that's found in John chapter 1. And so, Bren, why don't you come and read John chapter 1 and if you guys can stand for the reading of God's word.
Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, This illness is not unto death, for it is the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified by means of it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to his disciples, Let us go into Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were but now seeking to stone you, and you are going there again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. Thus he spoke, and then he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I will go to awaken him out of sleep. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. But Jesus had spoken about his death. But they thought that he meant taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I'm glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let's go to him. Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him while Mary sat in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection in the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live, and whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, he who is coming into the world. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying quietly, The teacher is here, and he's calling for you. And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were there with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Then Mary, when she came where Jesus was and saw him, fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not died. When Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. So the Jews said, See how he loved him? But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Mary, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not tell you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. I knew that thou hearest me always, but I have said this on the account of the people standing by, that they may believe that thou didst send me. said this, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with bandages, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary, and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on thus, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and destroy both our holy place and our nation." But one of them, Caiaphas, who was a high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, as you do not understand that it is expedient for you that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation should not perish." So ends the reading of the word. You be seated.
All right, thanks, Fred. Notice John's lengthy narrative. John records for us less of the 26 miracles than anybody else, but when he does, he gives you a lot of detail. Because John has selected a handful of miracle stories of Jesus to make a very significant point. Okay, so, but first, couple commercials. Last Sunday, I was asked to come to Fellowship Church in Salem, Oregon, which is out in South Salem, and I've become good friends with Anthony Treck, who is the pastor there, Anthony and Susan, and they asked me to come and speak on adultery. So I thought, wow, that's interesting. So I thought, this is a short sermon, right? Stupid, don't do it. All right. But anyway, it went really well. But Anthony and Susan have periodically they take a group of people to Israel, and they invited me to invite you guys, and Bren and I want to go. So next March 19 through 29, 2020, please save up your money. 10-day trip to Israel. It costs about $3,900 per person, which includes airplane, breakfast, and dinner. Only meal you have to worry about is lunch, and then all the hotel and everything's taken care of, and we will have a tour of the Promised Land. Hand up.
You already answered the question.
Okay. And so, seriously, I and then Anthony, and if I would love to go with some of our people if you want to go, and we'd be together as a group, and then Anthony will ask me to help at some sites, give me the biblical explanation of those sites. So it should be a rich experience. All right, now. How many of you are tired of the Oregon rain? Okay, that's why I'm wearing shorts today. I'm finished with Oregon rain. So we happen to, I grew up, Easter was a dress up time, but notice we don't dress up anymore for church, and that's fine with me. So I decided next Sunday, guys, I'm challenging you to wear shorts. So it's going to be a shorts. Ladies, you can wear whatever you want. Okay, so any volunteers, guys? Come on. Let's do this. Let's have fun. And we're also going to have kids' Easter egg hunt, right, Lani? Okay, so bring kids. And then we're going to have special gifts for the kids. And we're going to have Easter egg breakfast from 9 to 10, free breakfast here. And I need a couple of you who will help me with the eggs, because we can get all the other food. The eggs are hard to get, so I'm hoping some of you will make some egg dishes. We're going to have bacon, we're going to have ham, we're going to have bagels and salmon and fruit bowl, coffee and so forth, right? So, and chocolate. Alright, and shorts.
I love that. Wear shorts.
David, quick question.
Yeah, shorts.
Will the service still start at 10:30 then?
Yes, services start. Okay, now today's Palm Sunday commences what we call the Passion Week. This is a week before Jesus goes on the cross, And if you were in Jerusalem at that time, the whole atmosphere would have been charged. There was something you knew was going to happen this week. And so I'm going to, this Friday, which is Good Friday, I'm going to offer here a special Friday night Good Friday service. And it's going to be real simple. I'm going to take you through the 5 trials that Jesus went through. 2 secular trials and 2 religious trials and 3 secular trials. Jesus didn't go through 1 trial, he went through 5 of them, and there were 12 legal violations. Jesus' rights were violated at 12 times. And so going through the trial, and it would be interactive message, and then we get a sense of what happened that night. So I'm curious, how many think you might want to come at 6:30 and hear that? I think it should be enriching for you guys to see what happened. Okay? There are 12 illegal moves and 12 violations. Okay? So then last week we passed out the free Easter breakfast and sign up sheet, and if you want to sign up, you didn't get a chance to do that, would you do that? That's so we can plan how much food. And think about inviting someone. It's a good time to invite someone. So think about a friend or neighbor who may not usually go to church, and invite someone, okay? And then include them in a number of people. All right? All right. So we are in one of the 26 miracles, and this is and the miracle of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, and it's found in John chapter 11. Okay, there are 3 resurrection miracles among the 26 recorded miracle stories. Okay, 3 of them have to do with resurrections. First one is Luke 7, where Jesus intercepts a funeral procession, uninvited, unsolicited, and he stops this funeral procession as they are carrying a widow's only son to bury him. And he stops and raises the boy back to life and presents him back to the widow. Now, no one's asking him to do this. And so I'm asking the question, why are you doing this, Jesus? Because he could have just politely have stood by and let the funeral procession pass by, and that's all he needed to do. But something compelled him. My only way to make sense of this is, I think, watching this widow who just recently lost her husband, now has to go back to the graveyard 2nd time to bury her only son, and she's going to be destitute for life as a widow. I think he remembered a time when he and Mary together, hand in hand, went and buried Father Joseph. And he understood and experienced the anguish of his dear mom. Because he doesn't have to do this. So he raises this boy back to life. Then Jairus, the leader in Capernaum, asks Jesus to come and heal her sick daughter. And on the way, she dies, and then Jesus resurrects her, brings her back from the dead. Okay, that's the 2nd resurrection miracle. All right, 3rd one is this one. Okay, so let's do a summary. 3 resurrection miracles. First 2 happened within hours of death, because the Jewish people buried the person immediately within the day. First day of death, they're buried. Okay, that was their custom or practice. And so the first 2 miracles, the body was brought back to life. The person was raised back to life within 24 hours of death. This one is really tough case, because he's dead for 4 days. So the body's decomposed, or in the stages of decomposition. And so Lazarus being raised is we can argue is a whole different demonstration of the power of the resurrection. All right. And then remember, John is organizing his gospel by pointing us to 7 signs that points to who Jesus is as the promised Messiah. So the book of John is organizing, he's wanting to tell you about Jesus by focusing on 7 different signs that all point to Jesus. First one, Jesus turns water into wine. Second one, healing of the artificial sun. The third, healing of the paralytic that's let down through the roof. Fourth one, feeding of the 5,000. All these are messianic signs pointing out to who Jesus is. Fifth one, Jesus walks on water. Sixth one, healing of the blind man. And then the 7th and culminating sign, raising of Lazarus. Okay, so John wants you to get Jesus. Okay, so this is a critical note how long the Lazarus resurrection miracle story is. And then the ultimate sign, all these 7 signs fold into the crucifixion and the resurrection. Got it? Okay. John is telling the story of Jesus in a very unique, profound way. And his heart desires you get Jesus. Now, your Christian faith is about Jesus. It's not about making your life better. It's not about improving your marriage. It's not about transforming society with social justice. The Christian faith is about knowing and being bonded and walking with Jesus, which impacts your family, marriage, society, will transform the whole world. But your focus and agenda is not to improve yourself or improve your life or improve your society. It is to move towards Jesus. The improvement and transformation is a byproduct. Okay, this is really essential. God captures human hearts and transforms them from inside out, which impacts the world. God isn't taking you to impact the world. God is coming to you to transform you. And John gets that. He gets it. And John is that gospel writer who is the youngest disciple, and it's described, John's described as the beloved. He being the youngest, like a young kid in a family system who tends to get spoiled. Okay, and he has a very privileged position. He's leaning against the chest of Jesus in some intimate supper scenes. He has a privilege of getting into the heart of Jesus. Okay, and he outlives everybody else as a disciple. Okay, so N.T. Wright, one of my favorite New Testament theologian, gives us context of John chapter 11. Jesus gets a message after 2 days since the messenger was sent. Okay, he stayed 2 extra days instead of moving at once to an emergency call. So Jesus gets a 911 and doesn't answer until 2 days later. He would have been fired today for failure to answer 911. Okay, and he doesn't. It's not recorded that he sends a message back with the messenger. He doesn't even signal he's on his way back. Jesus was praying, wrestling with the will of the Father. But we do have, we can ask, what are you doing these 2 days when you should have been answering this call? We know he was praying But what was he praying about? He was asking the Father what he should do. Jesus does not operate upon what is the right thing to do. Jesus does not operate on it's a good idea. Jesus is internally motivated, and he's asking, Father, what are you doing? He comes right out and says that in John. I do that which I see my Father doing. And that's what a Christian does. A Christian isn't called to be a better person, to do better things. A Christian's movement is towards the Father, asking, what is it you want to do? And as such becomes truly radical. And sometimes you will have your father, having you stand up and go exactly against the group. Christianity is not a good movement, social or cultural. It is bonding with Abba Father and moving. And all your life, you're learning to hear Abba Father. And we see Jesus doing this. He's asking what he should do. This is a critical story in a chapter in Jesus' life. And it begins with Thomas saying, but Rabbi, the disciples saying, a short while ago the Jews tried to stone you, yet you are going to go back there. So beginning chapter, there's tension. If we go back there, they try to stone you. We could get stoned. And at the end of the chapter, we have Caiaphas, the high priest, says, you don't know it's necessary that one person die for the whole nation. So you got potential death and prophesying of death. That's the bookends of this chapter. And in between, Jesus is facing death of a friend, and he breaks in this person the power of death and declares himself. Okay? Jesus is praying. Jesus was praying for Lazarus. Obviously, Father, what is going to happen? What do you want me to do, my dear brother? Jesus was praying about those who were going to stone him, kill him. What should I do if I go back with the conspiracy that's consolidating? They will try to destroy me. And Father, you don't want me to be killed by them. Not at this point. Jesus knew they were going to kill him. But God is setting the time. As a Christian, ultimately, nobody can touch you unless God allows it. Trust that. Trust that you are in his hands. That's Jesus. And by some strange coincidence in life, you persecuted, you hurt, look through the persecution, look through the hurt, and ask, Father, what is it you're doing? It's a different way to walk through life. Rather than finding fault with family, friends, churches, society, you are looking through the opposition and say, what are you doing, Father? And what is it that you have for me? And we can have confidence that we are in his hands. Jesus was praying about the cross mission. Jesus was praying to connect with Abba and seek his will. And the thing he was doing is, Jesus doesn't have an exemption from God. He doesn't have some immunity where no germ touches me. People reject me, it's okay. It just falls away like water off a duck's back. No. When he's rejected, it hurts. He's pained. Okay? But in that pain, he's going straight to Abba Father. And that's how you heal. Every human pain you experience is designed by God to push you towards Abba Father. Okay? And we see Jesus doing that. Bethany is a Greek word, literally means the house of the poor. Evidence that it was a place where poor, needy, and sick could be cared for, kind of a hospice, a little way outside the city. Jesus frequents Bethany. Jesus had a special affection for the place, and for him, as he demonstrated again and again his own care for those in need, and assured them of the promise of the kingdom in which the poor would celebrate and the sick be healed. Jesus always had a special heart for the sick and the poor and those in pain, because it's the nature of the kingdom of God. When the Holy Spirit possesses a person, the power and the presence flows to that person, through that person, to break up darkness. What is darkness? Sickness. Darkness of conflicted relationship, darkness. Okay, and so Bethany, I believe, had a very special place in Jesus' heart. Now, Malcolm Smith, the other Bible teacher I often will reference, especially in these 26 miracles, he gives us this context. This miracle comes at the end of Jesus' earthly ministry. It's a culmination of his messianic work coming to a conclusion. Malcolm Smith, as we see, as we walk through the gospel, he is a promised Messiah, and he is bringing forth the kingdom of heaven, kingdom of God. And we see that as evidenced by healing, deliverance, and teachings and proclamation of the truth of God and revealing of God in his work among his people, and his God's work designed to capture the whole world and restore creation, and then eventually join creation, earth with heaven, where you and I will dwell. Heaven is not your home. Technically, when you die, you don't go home to heaven. You go to heaven to be absent from the bodies, to be present with the Lord. You go to heaven, which is a way station. It's a temporary place where you are in the perfect presence and peace, and cooperating with God, interceding from heaven's side for God to complete the work. Earth is your home. And you can't be human without trees, rocks, birds, cherry blossoms, wind, rain, food, chocolate. You can't be human, because you can't be human without a body. So resurrection. I'm tempted to take us on a little study on Gnosticism, which is an ancient philosophical and religious heresy and darkness that the early church fought. Because Gnosticism is what is behind New Age movement, and it's what's behind most of your comic book heroes. And it's what's behind the movie Matrix in Hollywood. The writers oftentimes are inspired by Gnosticism, which the early Christians fought and defeated. But it's being resurrected in our society. If you watch talk shows, especially self-help talk shows, the essential thoughts in getting through those is Gnosticism. In contrast, Christians, our task is to bond with Jesus and live by his words. Our task isn't trying to impact ourselves, our marriages, our relationship, our society, our world. That's God's task. Our task is to move towards God. And here's a strange thing. I'll put it in the most challenging terms. God's success works through human failure. God succeeds when you and I fail. Okay? All right. So Malcolm Smith, towards the end, in Jerusalem, Jesus reveals who he is in a confrontation with Jewish leaders. he reveals that he is God. They take up stones to kill him. You just blasphemed. And they're ready. John 10, previous chapter. I and the Father are one. The Jews took up stones again to stone him. They're going, what else do we need? He's a heretic. He's a blasphemer. He's a witch. That was a conspiracy charge in view. Because of the confrontation, Jesus withdraws. And Jesus simply just walks through those who were going to stone him. And Jesus leaves Jerusalem because it's too hostile. They're about ready to stone him, and he will die prematurely. He was destined to die on the cross. And he goes across the river Jordan into northern Judea, northern Jordan area, Perea, and he stays there. You can see Perea right underneath Decapolis. Okay, and he stays there. It's safe from hostility. He stays there until the cross. He is keeping himself from being prematurely killed. He's going to lay down his life. He's not going to let anybody take his life. Okay. Bethany, Mary and Martha, brother Lazarus lived there. Bethany, 2 miles east of Jerusalem. It was Jesus' southern retreat. It's his home group. He had 2 home groups, one up in north at Peter's house in Capernaum. And what is he doing there? Eating. And he goes down south. What is he doing in the southern home group in Bethany? Remember the story, Mary and Martha. What is Martha doing? In the kitchen, preparing home group meal. Okay? That's why I insist you be part of home group, and home groups do nothing but eat. You can't be a Christian without eating in a home group. Because eating is organic. You can't have a relationship without eating. I'm sorry. You can only be close to the people you eat with. Lazarus, he is sick. They send a messenger, a runner. They didn't do tweet. They sent a runner. And it would take this runner 1 or 2 days to reach Jesus. And he had to swim across the Jordan, which would be flooded at this time. So here comes a messenger, exhausted, tired, and wet. John 11:3. So the sister said to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. So they send a message. And the message is real strange. Lord, the one you love is ill. So what's missing in the message? Maybe it's like Western Telegram, right? You pay by the word, so they were really circumspect. Fair enough. But what's missing in this message? What's missing, guys? If your brother's dying, sick, what message are you going to send?
Get here now.
Come right away. And what? For a visit? Heal him. And they have had, they've seen enough, heard of enough miracle stories. Okay. But they're not asking him to do anything. Okay. Now I'll make a real strange point. When you really get secure in God, you stop asking God for things. You just learn to present problems. What are you going to do, Lord? My child's sick. What are you going to do? It's profound. Unless you become like a child, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. What do children do? They just present problems. No child comes to a mom and says, Mom, I am sick currently, and here are 5 things you need to do right now. beginning with, are you sure you have your insurance health card? Because when we go to ER, they're going to ask for payment. No, a child just says, I'm sick. Help. And oftentimes children even, they just present problems. It's a profound way to be in faith. Because it indicates that you have this deep relationship and assurance. Okay, the guy swims across, and the message is very simple. Sadly, in the RSV and most translations, the word behold is not there. The translators don't have it. So I looked at the various translations. There's 60 New Testament translations I looked at, and 34 times in the New Testament, the word behold is, the Greek word is edo, and it's used, there are 34 times that Greek word is used in the New Testament, and John uses it 3 times in this chapter alone. And in the 60 translations, 15 times out of the 60, behold is translated. Most of the time, it's not even translated. It is a significant word. 2 times it's translated look and see. So let's get the punch of this word. If we parse the Greek word, we find it's a verb, which is part of the speech, and it's in the aorist tense, which means it's a completed action tense, and it's in the middle, its mood is imperative. Behold, take seriously. There's intensity to this word. It's in the second person. You behold. This idea. And it's singular. You, Jesus, behold. There's punch here coming. Okay. So John 11:3 in the King James. Therefore the sisters said unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. You got urgency, you got passion, you got agony, you got call, you got depth. And God loves when we passionately go towards him. You can say to God, behold, I'm dying here. My life is falling apart here. Okay? In my understanding, this word is calling Jesus' attention to urgency. Will you act? Will you do something? Malcolm Smith, he translates this as, behold, they're saying, listen, look, this is urgent. Notice they don't say, we love you so. And this is what most Christians do. Oh, I can't ask God for something unless I qualify it, unless I figure out my merit in asking the request. Oh, we love you, please do this. We promise if you do this, we will really start to walk with you. There's no promise. It's just behold. But whom you love, they are calling upon Jesus' love. Their appeal to Jesus' love, not their own love. They're trusting in God's love. They're saying, you love us. Behold. That's simple, childlike, brilliant, and incredibly freeing. Know that God's heart is ever open to you, and he always invites you to come towards him. You can move towards him. Okay? Faith appeals to Jesus' love, not our love, nor even our faith. Faith is not appealing to faith than going to God. Faith is you get the open-heartedness of God and you're just moving there without any qualification. There's no request to act. They're not telling Jesus what to do. They don't know what's going to happen. Fair enough. Welcome to most human conditions. most of the time you don't know. You have the need, you have the challenge, but you don't really know what needs to happen. You think certain things should happen, but come on, be honest. They aren't telling Jesus what to do, nor asking for a particular intervention. They just rest in his love. Healing happens not because of our love or faith, but because of his infinite, unconditional love. So what happens? Jesus' action. He left Bethany, remember, went into northern Perea, gets a message, now stays 2 days. When does he show up? When he does show up, Lazarus' dead 4 days. John 11:39, Jesus said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be an older, for he has been dead 4 days. He's dead. But he could have prevented all this by responding immediately. Why does God wait so long before he responds? That's an honest faith question. Anybody can identify with that? It's constant. Have you noticed?
Is it building like our muscle to trust him and like helping us on our journey maybe?
I think God accomplishes that.
Well, is it just undeniably that this could only come from him?
In the ways and definitions of both clearly demonstrates certain truth. I think it's that and maybe even more. Inductively, if the messenger came to Jesus on the second day, it takes about 1 to 2 days to contact Jesus. Either Lazarus at that point is dead or in the last stage is dead. Then Jesus on top of that waits 2 days, then proceeds. In the meantime, Lazarus is dead. Okay. Does Jesus send a message back with Martha and Mary? Does he say, oh, go back, tell him it's going to be okay. I'm going to raise up Lazarus. Don't tell him the girl's not to worry. We don't even know if he sent a message back. We think he sent the messenger back. But if he did, we're not told what the message is. Messenger may go back by himself or may go back with a group. By the time the messenger does get back to Lazarus there, Jesus waits 2 days before starting to walk back to Bethany. Reasonable suspect the messenger went back with John 11 verse 4 message. But when Jesus heard this, he said, this illness is not unto death, it is for the glory of God, so the Son of God may be glorified by the means of it. Let's say he heard that, and that's the message he went back. But then Lazarus dies, which is going to be a contradiction to these words. This illness is not unto death, but the guy dropped dead. What is going on? Welcome to your walk with God. It doesn't make sense. Does it? And we insist it's got to make sense. And God counter insists, no, it doesn't have to make sense. You just have to trust me. Well, how can I trust you if it doesn't make sense? Trust me with all your heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. The faith of a Christian is a radical faith. It's easier to be a pagan. It's easier just to be a naturalist. It's easier to be an atheist. You're not going to be faith challenged. Trusting and believing God is quite a tough proposition if you stop and think about it. But he is worth it. Right? The glory of God manifested. Whatever the glory of God is, the manifestation of the power of God. Drawing back of the blinds to let the sunlight shine through. God will pull back the darkened drapes, and we will see his light. Through this, God's going to pull back the veil, and we're going to see the glory, the presence, and the majesty, mystery, and awe of God. We see the love, power, wisdom of God in the glory of God. Something happens that reveals and proclaims the love, power, wisdom, and glory of God. And God is setting up the whole group for this. Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" But he's dead. This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory. All your life, God is going to take you from one challenging episode to another, and the challenging episode is going to become a stage to reveal God's glory, his love, his wisdom, his power. But initially, the challenge will feel to you like it's going to destroy you. 2 Corinthians 3:8, and we all with unveiled face, beholding the glory of God, are being changed. The Greek word there is metamorphosis. It's inside out change into his likeness from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Spirit, from the Lord who is a Spirit. The Christian journey is glory to glory, walk of faith with unfolding of God's glory, love, power, wisdom in your life. Walk in the shoes of Mary and Martha, whose dear brothers died. Think of the darkness, the grief, the confusion, the anguish. And Jesus, where are you? You're late. You could have prevented this. It's unnecessary. And that's what I hear people saying. Why does God have to take us through unnecessary stuff? Because God is forever revealing his glory. Amen? It's terrible news. If you stop and think about it. The good news in the terrible news is God reveals and is compassionate. In the middle of this story, this phenomenal resurrection power that's going to be shown, Jesus weeps. Wow. God's not distant, detached, saying, well, I hope you get this. Well, at least you better trust me on it. No, he's hurting with us. He's in pain with us. He's crying with us. Amen? Okay, your response before the worship team comes. What is the story saying? Lengthy context. Anyone? What are you hearing?
Wait upon the Lord.
Yeah, and move towards him. And expect the glory of God. Expect God to act. Anyone else?
Just think about the delay that he was, he didn't go right away. That is how we want, I want God to act on my behalf right now.
Yeah.
And the timing is not mine and often doesn't make any sense.
Timing's horrible from a human standpoint.
Is it kind of an indication that we're, as people, we're constrained by our sense of time and reality, and God clearly is not?
I know. I wish he would accommodate to our time. But God, it really, truly is responsible, is in charge, without controlling us. He really is in charge of your life. He's not going to control your life. He says, come, let's walk this out together. And the best part of the walk is not interventions. Through the interventions, you deeply bond. I was in my study of worship team, why don't you come up, get ready? I was in my